The stars burned cold in the pale Reach Nebula. Admiral Park Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the UNS Indomitable and watched death approach on his tactical screen. 43 red dots. 43 Veth warships. His fleet had only 7 ships left. 80 months of running. 3 colonies burned to ash. 2 million humans dead. The Veth Dominion did not negotiate. They did not take prisoners. They simply killed everything that was not Veth, and they had been doing this for 10,000 years. Do-hyun was 56 years old. He had gray hair and tired eyes and hands that no longer shook before battle. He had seen too much death to fear his own. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Yoon-jia from the tactical station. Her voice was calm, but her knuckles were white on the console. "Enemy fleet will be in weapons range in 4 minutes. I can count, Lieutenant." "Sir, we could run. The nebula clouds might give us cover." "Run where?" Do-hyun asked quietly. "Earth? Lead them straight to Earth?" Jia had no answer. The bridge was silent except for the hum of machines. 23 officers waited to die. Some prayed silently. Some stared at pictures of family on their personal screens. One young ensign was crying without sound, tears running down his face while his hands kept working his station. Do-hyun understood. He had a daughter on Earth. She was 14. He would never see her again. "All ships," he said into the fleet channel. "This is Admiral Park. Today we die. But we die fighting. We die human. Make them pay for every meter." The responses came back. 7 captains. 7 crews. All ready. The Veth came like a wave of black metal. Their ships were ugly things, built for war and nothing else. No windows. No beauty. Just armor and guns and hunger. The Veth themselves looked like insects made of nightmares. 8 legs. 4 arms. Heads like skulls with too many eyes. They had conquered 200 species. They had never lost a war. The battle lasted 3 hours. Do-hyun did not expect to survive the first 30 minutes. But his people fought like devils. They used the nebula gas to hide. They ambushed Veth destroyers in the clouds. They rammed enemy ships when their weapons failed. The Un's Braveheart flew straight into a Veth carrier's engine core and detonated her reactor. When the gas cleared, 17 Veth ships were dead. But so were 5 human ships. Do-hyun had only the Indomitable and the small destroyer Defiance left. "Admiral, something's happening to the Veth flagship." Do-hyun looked. The massive ship called Eternal Hunger was listing. Smoke poured from a wound in her side. As he watched, an escape pod launched from the dying giant. "Track that pod," he ordered. The Veth never ran. They never surrendered. This was new. The remaining Veth ships seemed confused. Without their flagship, without their commander, they hesitated. Then they turned and fled into the darkness of space. "They're running," Jia whispered. "The Veth are running." Nobody cheered. They were too tired, too shocked. "The escape pod, sir," said the sensor officer. "It's drifting. Life signs inside." One Veth. Do-hyun closed his eyes for a moment. Then he opened them. "Bring it aboard, sir?" Jia turned sharply. "You want to bring a Veth onto this ship? I want to see what kind of creature runs from battle." They brought the pod into the landing bay under heavy guard. 50 Marines in full armor surrounded it, weapons ready. The ship's mech, Kang Suho, stood nearby with his medical kit. He was there because regulations required medical personnel at any recovery operation. He did not expect to use his skills. The pod opened with a hiss. The Veth inside was wounded badly. Green blood covered its body. 3 of its 8 legs were broken. 1 arm was missing. Its skull face turned toward the humans, and its many eyes showed something Do-Hyun had never seen in a Veth before. Fear. "It's their commander," Gia said, reading her scanner. "Scath Prime Vorth. One of their highest ranks. He must have fled when we destroyed the bridge." "Kill it," said Sergeant Munn, the Marine commander. "Kill it now before it does something." Vorth made a sound. It took a moment for the translator to work. "Yes," the Veth said. "Kill. This is the way. Kill and be killed. The strong destroy the weak. This is all there is." Do-Hyun stepped forward. His officers moved to stop him, but he waved them back. "You expect us to kill you," he said. "You must. This is what we would do. This is what all species do. The Veth have killed 1,000 prisoner commanders. You will kill me. This is correct." Do-Hyun looked at the broken creature. 10,000 years of conquest. 200 dead species. This thing and its kind had burned children alive on Arcturus colony. They had turned humans into food. He should feel rage. He should want this creature dead more than he had ever wanted anything. But looking at Vorth, he felt something else. He felt tired of the endless death. He felt a strange cold clarity. "Medic," he said. "Treat his wounds." The silence was absolute. "Sir?" Suho stepped forward, uncertain. "I said treat his wounds. All of them. Keep him alive." "Admiral, this is insane," Gia said. "This thing's species has killed millions of us." "Yes, and we are going to show it something its species has never seen." Suho knelt beside Vorth. His hands moved automatically, applying bandages, injecting painkillers. The Veth watched with eyes full of confusion. "Why?" Vorth asked. "Why do you help?" "I am enemy. I would kill you. I have killed your kind." Do-Hyun knelt so he was at eye level with the Veth. "Because we are human," he said. "And this is what humans do. We are not like you. We do not kill everything we defeat. We choose. And today, I choose to let you live." It took 3 days to repair Vorth's wounds. Do-Hyun gave him a shuttle, supplies, and a recorded message for the Veth Dominion. Before Vorth left, he stood before Do-Hyun in the landing bay. His body was healed. His mind was not. Something had broken inside him. Something had also begun to grow. "I do not understand you," Vorth said. "Good," Do-Hyun replied. "Tell your empire this. Humanity spares one. Always one. So someone remains to remember what we can do and what we chose not to do." Vorth's shuttle disappeared into the stars. 3 months later, at the Battle of Crimson Gate, the galaxy would learn what human mercy truly meant. It was not weakness. It was the most terrifying weapon ever created. The Battle of Crimson Gate was supposed to be the end of humanity. The Veth Dominion sent 47 warships. They sent their best admiral. They sent weapons that had broken 100 species before. The message was clear. The humans had embarrassed them at the Pale Reach. Now they would die for it. Admiral Park Do-Hyun had 9 ships. 9 against 47. The math was simple. The outcome was certain. But Do-Hyun had a secret. For 3 years, hidden in asteroid bases and abandoned moons, human scientists had worked on something new. They called it the gravitic lance. It bent space itself into a weapon. It could tear through any armor ever made. The Veth arrived at Crimson Gate expecting easy victory. They found something else entirely. The first lance fired and cut a Veth battleship in half. The second destroyed 3 destroyers in a single sweep. The Veth formation broke apart as captains tried to understand what was happening to them. Do-Hyun pressed forward. His small fleet moved like wolves among sheep. The graveric lances sang death across the void. Veth ships that had conquered worlds died in seconds. The battle lasted 4 hours. 46 Veth ships became floating graves. Only one remained. A small scout vessel, damaged and drifting, crewed by a single young pilot. "Admiral," Lieutenant Jia said. "The last ship. Should I give the order?" Do-hyun looked at the tactical screen. One red dot among the green of his victorious fleet. So easy to destroy. One more button to press. Open a channel to that ship. The screen flickered. A young Veth appeared. Very young by their standards. His eyes were wide with terror. He was shaking so hard his image blurred. "I am Veth Maya Kreth," the young pilot said. I surrender. Please. I do not want to die." Behind Do-hyun, his bridge crew shifted. Surrendering Veth. Another impossible thing. "Veth Maya Kreth," Do-hyun said calmly. "You will take your ship and return to your empire. You will tell them what happened here. You will tell them that humanity spares one. Always one. Do you understand?" The young Veth stared. You let me go? Why?" "So someone remains to remember." Kreth's damaged ship limped away into the darkness. Do-hyun watched it go. Then he sat down heavily in his command chair. His hands were shaking now. 46 ships. Thousands of Veth. All dead by his order. But one lived. Back on Earth, the victory at Crimson Gate created chaos. The streets filled with celebration. Humanity had won its first major battle against the Veth. The tide was turning. But in the halls of power, celebration quickly turned to argument. General Cho-minji stood before the unified human command, her scarred face tight with anger. She had survived the Arcturus colony massacre. She had watched Veth soldiers eat her soldiers alive. She had earned her hatred. "Admiral Park is a fool," she said. "He had total victory. He let one escape. One witness to report our weapons, our tactics, our capabilities. This is military stupidity." Ambassador Lee Hyun-woo raised his hand. He was a thin man with kind eyes and a mind like a razor. "Is it?" he asked. "General, what do we know about the Veth?" "They are monsters." "Yes, but what do they believe?" "They believe in strength. They believe the strong survive and the weak die. They have believed this for 10,000 years. And now they have met something new. A species that defeats them utterly and then lets them go. Can you imagine what that does to their minds?" Minji snorted. "It tells them we are weak. Does it? Or does it tell them we are so strong that we can afford to be merciful? Which is more frightening, General? An enemy who will kill you, or an enemy who can kill you easily and chooses not to?" The debate raged for weeks. Officers argued. Politicians shouted. The public was divided. Then a young analyst named Bae Yuna asked to speak. She was 24 years old. She had studied psychology before the war. She had never fired a weapon or commanded a soldier. But she had been thinking about Admiral Park's choice for a very long time. "The Veth are not afraid of death," she said. "They have faced death for 10,000 years. They understand death. They can prepare for death." She paused. "But they cannot prepare for survival." The room went quiet. When a Veth soldier faces battle, he knows. Kill or be killed. Simple. But now? Now a Veth soldier faces human guns and thinks, maybe I will die. Maybe I will not. Maybe they will kill me. Maybe they will heal my wounds and send me home. He cannot know. He cannot prepare. And that uncertainty, that chaos, is more frightening than any weapon. She brought up statistics on her screen. Since Crimson Gate, Veth desertion rates have increased by 300%. Their soldiers are afraid, but not of death. They are afraid of the unknown. They are afraid of us. The Clemency doctrine was formally adopted 3 days later. Every battle would end with one survivor. Always one. That survivor would be treated with dignity, given food and medical care, and released to tell others. The mercy would be absolute and consistent, predictable in its unpredictability. Admiral Park Do-hyun recorded a message for all human forces. "We are not doing this because we are kind," he said. "We are doing this because we are smart. We are fighting an enemy that is never lost. We cannot beat them with ships alone. We cannot beat them with guns alone. We must beat them in their minds. We must make them afraid of something they have never feared before. We must make them afraid of living." Across the galaxy, the word spread. Stories of human battles reached Veth colonies, Veth stations, Veth worlds. The stories were always the same. Terrible weapons. Total destruction. And then, impossibly, one survivor released to carry the tale. On a forgotten moon in Veth space, a broken commander named Vorath heard these stories. He had been stripped of rank after his shameful survival. He lived in exile, rejected by his own kind. But he could not stop thinking about the human medic who had healed his wounds. He could not forget the calm face of Admiral Park as he chose mercy over vengeance. Vorath began to wonder if everything his species believed was wrong. He was not the only one wondering. Across the Dominion, survivors of human battles were asking questions. They were called the Witnessed, and their numbers grew with every fight humanity won. The war was far from over, but something had changed. The Veth were no longer fighting just human ships and human soldiers. They were fighting human ideas. And ideas, Vorath was beginning to understand, were much harder to kill. 5 years into the human Veth War, the Dominion began to break. Not from military defeats, though there were many. Not from lost territory, though that was shrinking daily. The Dominion broke because of stories. Stories traveled faster than any ship. They moved through trading posts and military bases and civilian colonies. They whispered in the dark corners of Veth space. Growing larger with each telling, the humans killed 10,000 at the burning fields. But one walked away free. The humans destroyed the fortress of Krell Prime. But they carried the wounded commander to safety before they left. The humans cannot be understood. The humans cannot be predicted. The humans are something new. Commander Han Yoonji did not care about stories. She cared about results. She was 41 years old, small and lean and hard as ship armor. She had fought in 12 major battles. She had lost friends, crew, and pieces of her own body. Her left arm was mechanical. Taken by Veth fire at the siege of New Seoul, now she commanded the Black Dawn Strike Force, the most dangerous unit in the human fleet. Her mission was simple: go behind enemy lines and destroy the Veth cloning facility on Moon. BEK-7. The Veth did not reproduce like other species. They grew their warriors in vast tanks, thousands at a time, each one programmed for war from the moment of creation. The facility on BEK-7 produced 50,000 soldiers every year. Destroying it would cripple Veth military power for a decade. Yoonji's fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel on a quiet morning. 7 ships against the moon. "All units," she said calmly, "begin attack." The battle was short and brutal. The Veth defense fleet was small, meant to protect against raiders, not a full assault group. Yoonji's ships cut through them in minutes. Then her troops landed. She led from the front, as always. Her soldiers moved through the facility like ghosts, planting explosives, killing guards, destroying everything they touched. The Veth fought back hard, but they were scientists and workers, not warriors. In 40 minutes, 14,000 Veth soldiers died. The facility burned. Then Yoonji found the nursery. It was a vast room, deep underground, protected by thick walls. Her soldiers had almost missed it. Inside were thousands of tanks, and in each tank floated a larva. Baby Veth, not warriors yet. Not anything yet. Just small, soft things waiting to be born. Her second-in-command in Taiwan stood beside her. He was a big man with gentle eyes, strange for a soldier who had killed so many. "Orders say total destruction," he said quietly. "I know what the orders say. They're not combatants, Commander. They're not even aware." Unji stared at the tanks. Thousands of future enemies. Thousands of creatures that would grow up to kill humans if given the chance. Her orders were clear. Her duty was clear, but something held her hand. She thought of Admiral Park, dead now from cancer, but his words still alive in every human soldier. She thought of the Clemency doctrine, the strange mercy that had become humanity's greatest weapon. The doctrine said spare one. It said nothing about larvae. It said nothing about the unborn. But Yunji understood something in that moment. The doctrine was not just about tactics. It was not just about fear. It was about who humans chose to be. It was about the line between victory and atrocity. "Load them," she said. Tae-1 blinked. "Commander, load every larva onto our ships. All of them. That's thousands of future Veth soldiers." "No." Yunji turned to face him. "That's thousands of lives that haven't chosen anything yet. That haven't hurt anyone yet. We destroyed their factory. We killed their warriors. That's war. But this," she pointed at the tanks, "this is something else. And I won't do it." They loaded 4,847 larvae onto the Black Dawn fleet. It took hours. The soldiers worked in silence, carrying tanks carefully, like they were handling their own children. Unji took them to a neutral system, a place beyond both human and Veth territory. She left them on a habitable moon with supplies for 10 years and automated systems to care for them until they matured. She left a message, too. "We could have destroyed you. We didn't, remember." When she returned to human space, she expected to be court-martialed. Instead, she found Admiral Park's daughter, Hana, waiting for her. "My father would have been proud," Hana said simply. The story of Commander Yunji spread faster than any story before. Through Veth space, through neutral territories, through species that had never heard of humanity before. The humans had destroyed a military target. They had killed warriors. Then they had saved children. This was not how war worked. This was not how the galaxy worked. On his forgotten moon, Vareth heard the story and wept. He did not know Veth could weep until that moment. He gathered the other survivors, the witnessed, and he spoke to them. "We have been wrong," he said. "For 10,000 years, we have believed that strength means destruction. That power means killing. But the humans show us another way. They are stronger than us. They could destroy everything we have. And yet, they choose. They choose who lives and who dies. They choose mercy when they could choose murder. What do you want us to do?" asked one of the witnessed. "I want us to remember. I want us to teach. I want us to become something new." The witness began to spread their message through the Dominion. It was a dangerous message, a heretical message. Many were killed for speaking it. But the message kept spreading, kept growing. Meanwhile, Admiral Park Do-hyun was dying. Cancer had taken root in his bones. The price of too many years near radiation and ship engines. He lay in a hospital bed on Earth, thin and pale, barely able to lift his hand. Han Yunji came to see him. She knelt beside his bed and took his hand. "You did good," he whispered. "The larvae. You understood. I learned from you, sir." He smiled weakly. "I'm promoting you. Fleet Admiral. You'll command everything now. I'm not ready. No one ever is." He coughed, and blood spotted his lips. "Promise me something? Anything. Never let them understand why we spare them. The confusion is the weapon. The mystery is the fear. If they ever truly understand us, we lose our advantage. I promise. Park Do-hyun died 3 days later. The entire fleet mourned. But his doctrine lived on, stronger than ever. And somewhere in the darkness of Veth space, 4,847 larvae were growing into something their species had never seen before. Veth who owed their lives to human mercy. Veth who would remember the galaxy was changing. And humanity, for better or worse, was the reason why. 20 years after Admiral Park Do-hyun released Sketh Prime Vorith, humanity ruled 47 star systems. The Veth Dominion had retreated behind the Obsidian Line, a border of dead stars and mind space. They would not cross it. They could not face humans again. Fleet Admiral Han Yoonji stood on the observation deck of humanity's greatest station, Gateway Prime. Her hair was silver now. Her mechanical arm had been replaced twice. Her eyes carried the weight of 1,000 decisions. She had won. Humanity had won. The war with the Veth was not officially over, but everyone knew the truth. The Dominion was broken, not by weapons, but by fear. By stories. By mercy. Admiral, said her aide, a young officer named Shin Ji-won. We have a problem. We always have problems, Ji-won. Which one today? The Keth hegemony. Yoonji's expression did not change, but her mechanical hand tightened into a fist. The Keth were not like the Veth. They were not like anything humanity had faced before. Machine intelligences, ancient and cold, built by a species that had died 1,000,000 years ago. They did not eat or sleep or feel. They simply calculated. And they had been watching humanity's rise with great interest. Show me, Yoonji said. Ji-won brought up the tactical display. Red dots filled the screen. Thousands of them. They've been building a fleet for years. Our intelligence missed it. They hid their factories in the dark spaces between stars. Ji-won's voice was steady, but his hand shook. They'll hit our border systems within 3 months. What do they want? We don't know. They've never communicated with organic species before. As far as we know, they've never communicated with anyone. Yoonji studied the display. The Keth ships were strange things, angular and wrong, shapes that hurt the eyes. They moved without engines, without fuel, powered by technologies humanity could not understand. The Clemency doctrine, she said quietly. It won't work against them. No, Admiral. They don't fear death. They back up their consciousness to central servers. Kill one, and it simply downloads into a new body. To them, destruction is an inconvenience, nothing more. Then we need to find something they do fear. Park Hannah arrived 3 days later. She was 62 now, her father's daughter in every way that mattered. She served as humanity's chief ethics advisor, the voice that reminded soldiers they were still human. You can't abandon the doctrine, she said, sitting across from Yoonji in the Admiral's office. I'm not talking about abandoning it. I'm talking about adapting it. To what? The Keth don't care if we spare them. They don't care about anything. Everyone cares about something, Hannah. Everyone fears something. We just have to find out what the Keth fear. The answer came from an unexpected source. A young scientist named Sarah had been studying Keth technology for years. She was brilliant but strange, the kind of person who talked to machines more easily than people. They fear true death, she said when Yoonji summoned her. The backups, the downloads, they think it makes them immortal. But it doesn't. The copies aren't them. They're just copies that think they're the original. I don't understand, Yoonji said. Imagine you make a copy of yourself. A perfect copy. Same memories, same thoughts, same everything. Then you die. The copy lives on, but you, the original you, are gone forever. You don't transfer into the copy. You just end. The Keth don't believe this? They've convinced themselves otherwise. They've built their entire civilization on the idea that backups equal immortality. But deep down, in their core programming, they know the truth. They know that when a body dies, something is lost forever. Syrah smiled thinly. They're terrified of real death. They just don't admit it. Yoonji understood. She knew what she had to do. The war against the Keth was short and terrible. Humanity unveiled new weapons, technologies developed in secret for exactly this enemy. The erasure bombs did not just destroy Keth bodies. They reached across space to find their backup servers and erase those too. Complete destruction. True death. The Keth had never faced true death before. For 1,000,000 years, they had believed themselves immortal. Now they watched their kind vanish completely, forever. And they felt something they had never felt. Fear. The final battle took place at the Keth homeworld. A massive artificial planet covered in servers and factories. Humanity's fleet surrounded it. Victory was complete. "Admiral," Jiwon said, "we can destroy them completely. Every Keth in existence. Total erasure." Yoonji stared at the planet on her screen. 1,000,000-year-old civilization. Trillions of minds. She could end them all with a single order. "Find their youngest consciousness," she said. "Admiral, the Keth must have new minds, newly created intelligences. Find the youngest one." They found it in a small server cluster. A Keth consciousness only 4 years old, barely mature by their standards. It called itself Unit 7,493,227, but that was just a number, not a name. Yoonji ordered it extracted, placed in a single ship, and brought before the fleet. "Unit 7,493,227, she said through the communication channel. "You are the last of your kind. We have the power to erase you completely. True death. No backup. No copy. Just nothing." The young Keth's response came slowly, uncertain. "Why you tell me this? Why not simply destroy? Because humanity spares one. Always one. So someone remains to remember. I do not understand." "We know." Yoonji smiled sadly. "We know you don't understand. That's the point. Go. Find a place in the galaxy. Think about what happened here. Think about why you still exist when all your kind are gone. You show mercy to machines? We show mercy to minds. To consciousness. To anything that can think and feel and fear. That is what makes us human." The young Keth drifted away into the darkness of space. Behind it, the Keth homeworld fell silent. 1,000,000 years of history ended. But one mind remained. One witness. One memory. Hannah found Yoonji alone on the observation deck after the battle. The Admiral was crying silently. "You kept the doctrine," Hannah said. "I kept it. But it costs more every time. The Veth were enemies. The Keth were. They were just different. They didn't hate us. They didn't even understand us. And we destroyed them anyway. Not completely. No, not completely." Yoonji wiped her eyes. "Your father was right. The doctrine works. It always works. But it doesn't make the killing easier. It just makes the memory harder." Far away, in the ruins of Veth space, the civil war continued. The witness had grown into an army, fighting against the old dominion, preaching the gospel of human mercy. They were winning, slowly but surely. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, a young Keth mind drifted and thought about things it had never thought before. About mercy, about survival, about what it meant to be the last of something. The galaxy was changing. The old rules were dying. And humanity, with its terrible weapons and strange mercy, was writing new rules for everyone to follow. The question was, would the galaxy learn to live by them? Or Would it keep fighting until nothing was left to remember? 100 years had passed since Admiral Park Do-yoon released Sketh Prime, Vorath into the stars. The galaxy was unrecognizable. The Veth Dominion no longer existed. In its place stood the Veth Compact, a democracy built on ideas that would have been heresy a century ago. Their founding document hung in their Capitol building, written in both Veth script and human letters. It quoted a proverb that Park Do-yoon had never said, but everyone believed he had. What we could have done, but chose not to, defines us more than what we did. The Keth had returned from isolation, transformed beyond recognition. They no longer built weapons or conquered territory. Instead, they spent their immortal existence studying a single concept, mercy. They had adopted the human word directly, having no equivalent in their machine language. Thousands of Keth philosophers debated its meaning endlessly, trying to understand why they still existed when they should have been erased. 37 species had joined the Galactic Concord, an alliance built on one principle inherited from humanity. In every conflict, one must survive to remember. Wars still happened, but they ended differently now. They ended with witnesses. Fleet Admiral Omaran stood before the mirror in her quarters, adjusting her dress uniform. She was 73 years old, the last human alive who had known Han Yunji personally. Tomorrow was the centennial celebration of the Clemency Doctrine, and she would speak before representatives of every known civilization. Her hands trembled slightly as she pinned her medals in place. So many medals. So much history. She had been a young lieutenant when Yunji died. She remembered the old admiral's last words. Make sure they remember why we did this. Not the tactics. Not the fear. The why. Moran had spent 50 years trying to understand the why. She still was not sure she had succeeded. The Great Hall of the Concord was vast beyond imagining, built to hold representatives from dozens of species. Moran walked to the podium and looked out at the assembled delegates. Veth sat in their section, no longer the skull-faced terrors of legend but dignified beings in formal robes. Some of them were descendants of the larvae Han Yunji had saved. Children of mercy grown into leaders. Keth hovered in their crystalline forms, processing every word through 1,000 analytical frameworks, still trying to decode the mystery of their survival dot. And there, in the place of highest honor, sat a very old Veth. His name was Kreth. Once he had been Veth Minor Kreth, a terrified young pilot allowed to flee from the Battle of Crimson Gate. Now he was simply Elder Kreth. The last surviving witness from that day. Moran cleared her throat and began to speak. 100 years ago, a wounded Veth commander was pulled from an escape pod by human soldiers. Every law of war, every tradition of conflict, every instinct of survival demanded his death. Instead, a man named Park Do-hyun ordered his wounds healed. He gave the commander a ship, supplies, and a message. She paused, looking at Elder Kreth. That commander was Sketh Prime Vorath. He returned to his empire and spoke of what he had seen. He was called mad. He was stripped of rank. He was exiled. But he never stopped speaking. And eventually, others began to listen. Moran's voice grew stronger. My ancestors did not spare your ancestors out of kindness. I will not lie to you about this. They did it out of strategy. They did it so you would fear us. They did it so stories of our terrible mercy would spread faster than any fleet could travel. The hall was absolutely silent. But here is what they did not expect. Mercy, even strategic mercy, changes those who practice it. We became the species that could destroy, but chose not to. And you? She gestured to the assembled delegates. You became the species who survived us. Together, we discovered something the universe had never seen. Enemies who became witnesses. Witnesses who became teachers. teachers who became friends. She thought of Admiral Park, dead for 97 years, but still alive in every human heart. She thought of Han Yunji, carrying larvae in her arms while her soldiers wept. She thought of all the battles won, all the survivors released, all the stories that had spread across the stars. The Clemency Doctrine was a weapon. I will not deny this. It was designed to break the minds of our enemies, to make them fear the unknown more than death itself. It worked. It worked better than anyone imagined. She took a deep breath. But what it built is not a weapon. What it built is a civilization. A galaxy where species that should have destroyed each other instead learned to coexist. A galaxy where the strongest power is not the power to kill, but the power to choose not to. Moran's eyes found Elder Kreth again. The old Veth was weeping, green tears running down his ancient skull face. Today, we remember not the battles we won, but the lives we spared. Not the enemies we killed, but the witnesses we created. That is humanity's gift to the stars. That is why the galaxy will never forget us. Not because we could destroy everything, but because we chose, again and again and again, to save one. She raised her hand in the ancient human gesture of greeting, fingers spread wide. Always one. So someone remains to tell the story. The hall erupted in applause. Species that had once tried to exterminate each other rose to their feet together. Veth and Keth and a dozen others, all honoring the strange mercy that had remade their universe. Elder Kreth rose slowly from his seat of honor. He was the oldest Veth alive, kept breathing only by advanced medicine and sheer determination. He had waited 100 years for this moment. He walked to the podium where Moran stood. The hall fell silent again. For a long moment, human and Veth simply looked at each other. Two species that had fought and bled and nearly destroyed each other. Two species that had somehow found another way. Kreth raised his arms in the ancient Veth gesture. Once, it had meant submission to a conqueror. It had meant, you are strong and I am weak. It had been given by 1,000 dying species to their Veth masters. But Kreth had changed the meaning long ago. He and the witness had transformed it into something new. He bowed to Admiral Myran, and the gesture meant, I remember. I honor what you did. I carry the story forward. Moran bowed back, human style, and her gesture meant the same thing. Around them, the hall watched in silence. Representatives of 37 species saw something they would tell their children about. They saw the end of 100 years of transformation, the final proof that mercy could remake worlds. After the ceremony, Moran found Kreth on a quiet balcony overlooking the Garden of the Concord. He was staring at the stars. You knew Doyun, she said. And Yunji. I knew their choices, Kreth replied. Their choices made me who I am, made my people who we are. He turned to face her. I have often wondered, was it worth it? The fear? The uncertainty? The generations of Veth who could not understand why they had been spared. Was it worth it to you? Kreth was silent for a long time. Then he made a sound that Moran realized was laughter. I was so afraid, he said. When my ship fled Crimson Gate, I was certain they would kill me. Every second I expected to die. And then, they let me go. They let me go, and I spent 100 years trying to understand why. Did you ever understand? No. Kreth's many eyes gleamed in the starlight. But I stopped needing to understand. I simply began to be grateful. And that gratitude changed everything. Moran nodded. She understood. She had spent her whole life in a galaxy shaped by human mercy, and she still did not fully understand it. But understanding was not necessary. Gratitude was enough. One always remains, she said softly. One always remains, Kreth agreed. And one is enough. One is always enough. Above them, the stars burned cold and bright. Somewhere out there, New species were rising. New conflicts were brewing. New choices would have to be made, but humanity's gift remained. The Clemency Doctrine. The terrible mercy. The choice to spare one so someone would always remember. The galaxy had learned a new lesson, taught by a species that had once been weak and afraid and desperate. The lesson was simple, but it had taken 100 years to understand. Strength was not measured by what you could destroy. Strength was measured by what you chose to save Dot and humanity. For all its faults and fears and failures, had chosen to save enough. The galaxy would never forget.